On this week's episode, I want to light a fire under you by talking about doing the scary thing versus doing the easy thing and why you should choose scary. This is the Joshua Mentality. Welcome back to another week and another episode of the Joshua Mentality. So good to have you all here for yet another one. As always, I got to remind you of where we're at with that hourglass. So we are officially at week 44. Yes, that is 44 weeks counting down from 52. And so there's still a lot of time left, but this thing is moving fast. So, I like to create a little sense of urgency under you for 2021. Because I don't want you to get to the single digit weeks and then be like, well, it snuck up on me. Nope, it didn't sneak up on you if you're listening to the Joshua Mentality, because I'm going to remind you very often. All right. I hope y'all are having a good week so far. This is hump day, and hump days are always special because we're kind of right in the middle. We're not too far into the week and and also close to the end. So it's kind of a nice little spot to be in. So I'm going to do my part to get you through to Friday. And we got another exciting episode ahead here. But before we jump into that, I'm trying something out here. I'm going to be opening a text line. And that's so you all can participate in a lot of the content that takes place here. I would love to hear from some of my listeners, the loyal listeners who would be so courageous to write in. I really want to hear your feedback on, what you're getting out of some of these shows, what are some things that, questions you may have, or content that you would like to see kind of shared here on the Joshua Mentality podcast. So the idea is I'm going to, starting this episode and beyond, I'll have the chat line open. I'm going to give you that number here in a second. But first, I want to kind of go through what the purpose of it was. It's really to hear from you all, my loyal listeners, to hear from you kind of what's standing out to you in each episode. What are some things, again, that you want to see in future episodes, and anything else. I mean, we might actually do some other stuff with this as well. It all depends. But for now, we're going to stay local with the number here. So here it is. It's 407-476-6045. Again, that's 407-476-6045. Now, do not call this number because no one will answer. So I hate to disappoint you. If you were planning on calling that number, it is really only going to be used for texting purposes only. So if that's something you want to do, I'd greatly love to hear from you. It's always exciting to hear feedback. So that's just another outlet that you can provide some feedback. All right, let's connect. Now, getting into this week's episode, I'm pumped because my question for you is very poignant and simple. And it's, are you right now, if we were to zoom out of your life and take kind of just a 100-foot view, would you say you're doing the scary thing in your life right now or the easy thing? Which one are you living in right now? Are you doing the easy thing or are you doing the scary thing? Now, with that, I think I have to preface my comments by saying, when I say scary thing, I don't mean irresponsible thing. When I say scary, I mean some of those things that are really, they're uncomfortable. Like we know we should do them, but they're so darn uncomfortable or maybe overwhelming that we shy away from them. What's that scary thing in your life right now? What is it? Maybe it's, for some of us, maybe it's another level of vulnerability or forgiveness. Or maybe that thing makes us feel too vulnerable. Or maybe it's finishing something you started years ago. But every time you think about kind of getting back to the grind, putting the axe back to the grind, it's stressful. What's that scary thing for you? And more importantly, if you did not do this scary thing, what would you be missing out on? What would you miss out on if you just skipped out on doing this scary thing? What would the cost be? Not monetary, but value-wise. What does it value? What does it mean to you? I'm so adamant and determined to get those of you who listen to this podcast to flip that switch and start going after the scary things. For me, I think back to when that switch kind of clicked for me. And I don't think I've shared this story with a lot of people, but I think I had to be around 22. Somewhere there, give or take 21 or 22. But I was in a really weird place. Just kind of every day just felt like the same drag. It felt like I was just kind of dragging through life. And not just dragging through life, but actually taking collateral damage with me. Meaning a lot of the relationships I was involved with at that point were all like selfish. Because I really didn't have anything to give someone in a relationship. And I'm not just talking intimate either. I'm talking about like just all relationships. Everything was just kind of kept at this kind of platonic level. Because I couldn't access anything deeper than that. And I just remember just kind of like Groundhog's Day, growing up, same thing every day. Well, not even growing up. I think I meant to say getting up every day. Same thing. And it almost felt like, in those movies where you see the movies black and white until something happens and the color starts to come in. That's kind of what happened for me. And it happened for me on one particular night where I think I was just living and practicing some very self-destructive habits. And I remember I was riding home one night from a friend's house. And I would always take this same route. And this route I remembered, I would go down this back road, and this is where it gets a little strange and maybe a little creepy for you, but stay with me. But I would always get to this little back road that came to this stop sign. And in front of this stop sign, there was this dead end. Behind that dead end sign was a graveyard. And you could either go left or right. So it was really kind of creepy at night. But I'm not that creeped out by graveyards from all the scary movies. Not yet. So this one didn't creep me out, but it was very symbolic. Because on this particular night, when I left my friend's house, I got to the end of that road. And I remember stopping at that stop sign for way longer than I've ever stopped at a stop sign in my life. And the reason why was because as I looked at that same little dead end sign, it's nighttime and my lights are reflecting off of this dead end sign, I could hear this kind of still voice in my head say, if you keep going in the direction you're going, this is where you're going to end up. At a dead end. Thinking back to this story, it's even more profound. The fact that not only was there a dead end sign, there was a graveyard behind it. And so I think the imagery and the symbolization was even more deeper than what I could understand in that moment. Because not only was I going to end up in the dead end, I probably was going to end up dead, not physically. Physically, it might have been a reward, but I was going to end up kind of one of those dead man walking types where you're alive, you're still breathing, but everything inside of you is dead. Because your habits, instead of doing the hard thing, the scary thing, you chose the easy thing. That's what I'm saying to myself. Instead of working on those toxic habits, those toxic patterns, you instead chose the easy route, to continue it because it's thoughtless. Doesn't require a lot of energy. It's not overwhelming. I know this already. I'm comfortable here. I'm comfortable in this pain. It's easy. And far too many of us, especially men, we make that space of pain a space that's home. And that's doing the easy thing. That's just one example. Maybe yours doesn't run that deep. So forgive me if maybe that just ruined your maybe your thought process around this topic. But I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to think about your life. And maybe it's just in one area right now. Don't overwhelm it. Think just one area that you know without a shadow of a doubt that you are choosing the easy thing when you should be choosing the hard thing. Maybe that's going back to school. Maybe that's forgiving someone who hurt you and really hurt you. Maybe that's letting go of this mask of identity that you've held up so long because you didn't want to do the hard thing of actually discovering who's the little boy underneath that man cover. I don't know. And I use that last one as an example because that was me as well. I used to walk around with 36 pair of jeans wearing $150. What is that about? It's because I chose the easy thing. This is what everybody in my hood looked like, so that's what I therefore should look like. Why am I doing this? I have no idea, but this is what I've adopted because it's easy. I don't have to think. I don't have to think about my identity. I don't have to think about, who am I? What am I here for? No, I can cover it all with some kind of substance or something that will suck out the pain so that I can continue the easy path. If that's you, in some way, shape, or form, again, maybe not that deep, but if that's you, I challenge you today. I challenge you to take one step towards the hard thing. And not just leave it at one step, to commit that is one step towards many steps of accomplishing whatever that hard thing is. Because I'm going to tell you, man, on the other side of that hard thing, the rest of us are going to benefit. On the other side of that hard thing I did that night by saying, you know what? I don't want to keep going that route. I don't want to end up at a dead end. Let me get this thing together. Let's reset. Let's figure some things out. Let's shake this friend tree up. And guess what? On the other side of that is what you're listening to now. On the other side of that is the family that I have now. On the other side of that is the mind and mentality that was developed from that season. And the same can be true for you. Do the scary thing. Do the scary thing. And here's some questions I want you to consider. The first I already shared with you, which is, what are you risking if you don't do it? For me, it was, as I told you, ending up at a dead end or very much a walking dead end. What's it for you? Think 2 or 3 steps down the road. What happens if you don't do it? And is that worth it? What happens if you don't grow in that area? What happens if you don't go after that venture? Will you be left with regret? Will you be stuck with, man, I wish, or bitterness? What's on the other side? Because if you can reverse engineer it from that point, that might very well be the fuel you need to make that decision to go after the scary thing. There's some of you listening to this who you may have already made some attempts at the scary thing, and you might have fallen flat on your face. Nothing has probably aligned the way that you thought it would, or it wasn't easy at all. And that's the point. That is the point. Every great story, every great, journey, every person and a success story that you admire has the same archetype. It's starting on the easy, or starting at the starting line of easy and working through that mountain of hard things, of scary things to get to the other side, and having some setbacks and having some failures. But like I've told you all along, you are not a product of the failure. You just experience those failure events. But don't let that stop you from going after the scary thing. Do not let that stop you. This time was created and really made with you in mind. So go after it. Whatever it is. Some of you have books within you that you haven't written yet because it's scary. It's scary to sit down and have to face the fact that you have no idea what the heck you're doing. I've been one of those people, and sometimes still am. Do it anyways. Start it anyways. And see what happens. See how quickly you land in your zone, and it just begins to flow out of you because it was already in you all along. For others, there's this business that doesn't even make sense how it could come together. And so you've put it down. You've laid down the plans. For others, it's a job opportunity that you so wanted, but you've given up on because you maybe you applied 100 times and then haven't gotten a call back yet. Do the scary thing. Apply again. Do the scary thing. Go after that business venture, even if it makes no sense to anyone else. There was once a time in our history where people were riding on horses and people thought, you are out of your mind to think that we're going to ride on anything other than these. And guess what we have now? Now we have cars that freaking ride based on the sun and solar power. Like, dream, discover, develop, decide. Those 4 phases we've been talking about, or zones we've been talking about, they have scary kind of peaks. They have scary valleys, but the peaks are worth it. You might be facing a scary valley, but know there's a peak on the other end of that it will be well worth it if you commit to it and you remain disciplined and you go after the scary thing, because you know that scary thing is tied to your purpose. And I don't know why I'm on this. Y'all know usually I like to laugh and keep it light, but this week I just really feel instinctively the need to remind some of the listeners out there to stop living this complacent, I would call it acceptance of just the bare minimum of your purpose, and go after the scary thing. Maybe the scariest thing is in the mirror. Maybe. I don't know. But whatever it is, you have someone in your corner who's cheering you on, who is every week showing up, because I want you to show up every week, and is here to remind you to do the scary thing. Do it. Maybe it's finally getting your budget in order. Finally making those investments to set up your family in generational wealth. Finally taking that class to get some financial literacy. Well, whatever it is. Find the energy, find the time, and do it. That's my message for you this week. I want you to choose the scary thing over the easy thing. You've been listening to the Joshua Mentality. I hope you got something out of this conversation for today. My goal was to really ignite a little fire under you, and I hope it challenges you. And it's okay if that causes a little bit of friction. I'm okay with that. Sometimes that's a necessary component. But I hope this encourages you to really go after it, because there's greatness in you, and I want to see it through. So thank you all so much, as always, for tuning in, for supporting, for liking, for sharing, for commenting. Check out that new chat line. Let me know what your thoughts are, or what other content or topics you want to see covered. And I'll be keeping my eye on that, all right? So don't leave me hanging. And until next week, same time, same place, remember, success is your destiny.